Ladies and gentlemen, Knicks N Bruises is back. I got a full house tonight. The great MBK fam collaboration panel. Um, so I was planning on going on later tonight, and talking about Ben Simmons briefly, and then I seen Josh. Josh had put a tweet out asking, would you trade RJ Barrett for Ben Simmons? So I'm like, all right, I can't wait. He put it in the atmosphere. It might get some traction. So we're gonna do it a little bit earlier than planned. And so welcome guys, Die Hard, Sim, Josh. Where do we want to begin? I mean, I guess I'll begin. Die Hard with Sim because I wasn't even gonna necessarily include RJ. I know that would probably be the asking point, but the way I was looking at it was at this particular moment, Ben Simmons' trade value is probably at its lowest, and we have all these draft picks. Maybe the draft picks could be the starting point, and then we could negotiate if a player or two needs to be thrown in. But we have the cap space to absorb, so that alone puts us at the advantage of not necessarily having to include player A or player B. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on trading for Ben Simmons? And what do you think it would take? Yay or nay? We can start with Sim, the father.
Oh man. One, I like Ben Simmons. I know people argue about Ben Simmons and his inability to shoot the basketball. I think he brings a lot of other things to the basketball game besides just shooting. I think he has a good basketball IQ. Obviously, he's a good defensive player. You can play him at 3 or 4, probably 5 positions if you need to. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a player that can. I think he's a game changer, to be honest with you. I mean, you hope that he can one day develop a jump shot, but I think you can take Ben Simmons, you can put him in the post. He can create from the post. He can kick out from the post. He can do it all besides shoot. Besides shoot. So I would love to have Ben Simmons on the team. You know what I mean? I mean, a guy that can guard the center spot and also guard a point guard. I mean, and can create from that center spot for other people. I just don't know if, I don't know. Obviously, a coach has to be able to use them in all of those ways. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be able to find ways to use Ben Simmons to his strengths. I would love to have Ben Simmons, but I would want him with RJ, not for RJ. I'll say that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Hot take, controversial Josh. What you got?
Salute, guys. So the reason why I asked the question is because a lot of people are coming down on Ben Simmons, obviously, second best player on the Sixers, and I guess second best scoring option that they have. If not, you can argue Tobias Harris, but the guy basically didn't step up. And I feel like, it is fair because as a second best player on the team, you definitely need to show up in the playoffs. I come down on Julius Randle all the time for what he did not do in the playoffs for us. But I just feel like this guy brings something to the table. All NBA level defender, all NBA level rebounder for his position. I think that, outside of scoring, he does everything else at an all NBA level. Everything else. Definitely a facilitator, can see the floor. I don't think he's necessarily a point guard. Because you can't really run plays through him. But at the same time, the guy is just a beast, as Sim was saying. So, I mean, as far as considering who we give up for him, I think the conversation about RJ, I think it does make sense. And I think it's something that we definitely should talk about. I know Knicks fans have their, love affair with RJ. They don't want to give up RJ at all costs. But to me, I think Ben Simmons has a higher ceiling than RJ without the scoring. And he's only 24 years old. So we can't, the guy is still young. He's still developing himself. So I definitely think it's something to talk about.
Before I get to Die Hard, you think the conversation has to start with RJ? You're not just saying include RJ for the heck of it. You're saying if that's their starting point, do you do it?
Correct. Yeah, I think a lot of people, when you mention RJ in the trade, people think that you're just shopping RJ just to shop him, and that's not something I'm trying to do. But I think for a player of Ben Simmons' caliber, I think you definitely need to at least think about giving up RJ in a scenario like that. And for any pretty much for any All NBA player, I think that you need to talk about giving up RJ because what are the pros and the cons? RJ is not an All NBA defender. RJ can rebound the basketball really well, but you can't really run plays through him. You know what I'm saying? His shot has improved, and he's giving us 18 points per game now, I think it is, or 17, 18 points per game. Ben Simmons can do 18 points per game. I know max he's ever done is like 16, but that's really been consistent for his entire career. I think the pros outweigh the cons as far as RJ versus Ben Simmons, and I would definitely consider doing it.
I got another question for you, but I'm gonna go to Die Hard real quick. What's your thoughts, Die Hard?
Well, my thing is like what do we consider him? Like if he was to come here, is he going to be our point guard? What will be his role when he gets here? Because right now we're running the offense through Julius Randle. So if he gets here, now that kind of changes everything. And then on the simple fact too that he can't shoot. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of adds a whole thing to it too. But also too with just talking about Philly and who they would want. If you look at our roster, we have nobody on signed. We got RJ is the only guy really. We're not going to trade Julius Randle for Ben Simmons. Obi Toppin, Kevin Knox, Vildoza. These are the guys that we have on the list. Mitchell Robinson. You got to be realistic about who they would actually want from us. And RJ is basically the only guy. RJ and Knox. Aside from the draft picks, and then also the Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I disagree for this because I think if we're willing to do it, I think the two rookies and a plethora of draft picks does it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We got the other two draft picks that we have, Emmanuel Quickly and Obi, and then we got the all these draft picks that we have. I guess they would take that, but what are they doing on that side? Are they rebuilding if they trade Ben Simmons? That's like a whole conversation to have on their end.
When you have Embiid and you still arguably have Harris being paid what he's paid, granted he hasn't played up to his contract. I don't think that's considered a rebuild. I think whether it's considered, addition by subtraction or whatever the case. I think that's the way they would be looking at it. And I think that's a fair, a fair trade. Our two rookies and a couple of picks, two to three picks, first rounders. Yeah. I think you win. That's a win for both of us. Real quick with Josh. Man, what did you say? I lost it when I'm listening to
all NBA caliber player with the exception of Soren. He does everything else at an all NBA level.
Yes, I do agree with that. And all right, I got a funny take because he's like Elfrid Payton on steroids. He's Elfrid Payton's 5-game triple-double.
No,
New Orleans. I'm saying that we're in position to take him on, being that we had Payton, because he does so much of what Payton does, but at an elite level, defends, distributes, rebounds. It's not much of an adjustment bringing him in. I'm actually defending bringing him in when I give him that comparison. Now, Elfrid wasn't afraid to shoot the ball. You know what I mean? We're going to have to fix that at some point somehow. But I think if you look at it from the replacement of Payton with Ben Simmons, and it's like, that's what I mean when I say on steroids. I'm not comparing the two as players per se. But what what Payton gave us is exactly what Ben will give us, but at an elite level.
Well, the thing about Ben Simmons is, yes, we all know he can't shoot the basketball per se, but the guy can still score the basketball. He can drive. He can definitely get to the hole whenever he needs to get to the hole. It's just that, like, what Atlanta did against us. They prevented Ben Simmons from basically going to the hole, and he basically looked scared out there. I'm not going to lie. He looked like, he wasn't ready for the moment. But outside of that, I feel like, if we can get a good offense going, and obviously there's going to be some more moves that need to be made. Ben Simmons is not going to be the person that we're going to give the ball to when the game is on the line. We still got to have Randall there, and you got to have one more ball handler out there to be able to run plays through. But the guy, Ben Simmons, can score. I think his 16 or 15 points that he was averaging, that's not a fluke. He can definitely do that. And we all seen what he did at LSU. So the potential is definitely there. He's only 24 years old. And I think that he would be a tremendous upgrade to this team rather than someone that's that detrimental to us. But we just have to keep building. We can't make Ben Simmons the end-all, be-all.
But let me ask you this, though. For what Ben Simmons gives you on the defensive side, on the scoring side, can Lonzo Ball give you the same thing?
I don't agree.
You have to give up anything?
I don't think so. I don't think Lonzo Ball is an all-NBA defender at all. I don't think Lonzo Ball is an all-NBA rebounder at all. I think Lonzo Ball, his greatest thing that he can do is shoot the basketball, but he just started to do that this season. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Lonzo.
He shot well last season as well. He shot 37% from the field from the three last season. He shot 37% from the field this season. He's been shooting it for a little while. He didn't just start shooting it.
I guess fair enough, but I just feel like for their ages, yes, I do see what you're saying as far as Lonzo Ball being able to give us the same thing at a cheaper price. But to me, I just think what Ben Simmons does on the floor, I think you can't really replace that with anyone. With his size, with how tall is he? 6'9", 6'10", at the wing guard position. I just think that you can't.
But
it's
what
hard
makes
to find
you
guys
think,
like that?
What makes you think at 24 years old? How many threes did he take this season?
Not many.
Simmons? Not many. So why would the Knicks be able to change him taking threes? And umpteen coaches in Philadelphia didn't change him being able to, wanting to shoot the three. Lonzo Ball already shoots it. And you don't have to worry about changing that. And that's something we desperately need. And I'm not saying that Ben Simmons isn't a game changer. He is. I think he's a great player. But he does make $35 million a year and up for the next 5 years, right? That's a lot of change to dump into a player who has a deficiency in an area where you're already a little bit deficient. We shot a good percentage from the field, but we didn't shoot a lot from three, right? And it showed up in the playoffs. Lonzo Ball can knock it down. And he's not afraid to knock it down. He can also, he may not be the defender that Ben Simmons is, but he's not going to give you a minus on the defensive side. He's a good defender. He still gives you 14 a game, right? Lonzo averages 5 rebounds. Ben Simmons is average 7 rebounds per game. Lonzo, he's not 6'9", but he's 6'6". I don't know.
That's a commitment. You're talking about $20 to $30 million there.
So Sim, are you making the argument that Lonzo Ball can be a bigger impact for this team than Ben Simmons can?
A bigger impact in the fact that you have more money to get other players. You got to give Ben Simmons $35 million a year, and you got to give up draft picks.
And you're talking about giving up RJ
and other players.
Yeah,
I mean, Lonzo, you sign him outright for, even if it's $20 million. Say you signed him for $20 million outright. You still got money. You still got your draft picks to make other moves in other areas, and you still got money, and you're not even worried about giving up RJ.
Yeah. I mean, that's when when you weigh in your options, it's a smarter move to go with Lonzo and not giving up any asset, because now you're in a position to still make moves. You still have some money left. You still have all your assets for a trade. It wouldn't be Ben Simmons in that aspect, but now you could still make another move.
I still think even if you bring in the Ben Simmons, you make the trade or whatever, you're still gonna be able to make moves. Obviously, not as many because you have more money tied up to Ben Simmons. But bringing in a player like that makes over $30 million will not cap strap this team. This team has had cap space for the last 3-4 years. They've had cap space, and for some reason, we sign these, stopgap players or whatever you want to call them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it comes to a point where you got to be able to go out and get talent. And I feel like Ben Simmons, for what he does on the floor, a lot of teams are gonna want that. And I think he can definitely improve this team and help this team out. I get it. We do need scoring. We do need shooters. No matter who we bring in, whether it be Lonzo or Ben Simmons, you're still gonna have to make some moves after that. But I think it's something that we definitely should talk about as far as bringing Ben Simmons to this team, because you're not going to get him at a cheaper price right now. Than right now.
Well,
you're not going to get him at a cheaper price.
I agree with that 100%. That's why I wasn't even thinking RJ Barrett had to be included. I think you could make a move for him and not include Barrett. But I think Sim makes a greater argument in Lonzo in long term in the future of the team and the position of the team. And then if you just want to bring it straight to a basketball standpoint, he's way less of a liability when it comes down to just foul shooting down the stretch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's not even talk about whether he shoots the ball or not, but just the foul shooting alone,
Well, I'm struggling to figure out what kind of player he is, because when I look at him, I feel like I've seen this guy before. Billy Owens is somebody that comes out to me. Another guy, Michael Carter Williams, that was at one point, both of those guys that were talked about, guys that were revolutionary basketball players. They could ball handle, they could pass, they could do everything. We just didn't know what to do with them in the offense and stuff. So, I feel like if we get him, we're going to be in that category where we're trying to figure out how we gonna use him on this roster. And at the same time, now you eliminated RG, so you have to replace RG, because if you want Ben Simmons to be a point guard, you know what I'm saying, now you don't have RJ. You know what I'm saying? Now you still have to get.
I don't think Ben Simmons is a point guard though. I never thought Ben Simmons as a point guard. I think he's more of a wing kind of guard hybrid. I never thought
he's Billy Owens. If you look at Billy Owens' stats, whatever, Billy Owens straight across the board is just like just like Ben Simmons.
I don't think Billy Owens or Michael Carter Williams ever made an all-defensive team or all NBA team for that matter.
But that's the only thing you're adding to that is just the fact that he plays defense.
I mean, I still say he's a great player, but those liabilities is what, because it don't matter where you put him. His liabilities are his liabilities. If you put him at the 4, he still needs to be aggressive to be successful. You know what I mean?
And if you put him at the 4 too, he could become like a Lamar Odom. Change his game and become because take advantage of his rebounding, take advantage of his face-up game. He could post up. There's things that he could do well, and he could still learn how to shoot too, man. He's still young, because Lonzo was shooting from his pocket, when he came into the league, and now he's in basically up there with the elite guys shooting the 3. So things.
The funny thing is, if I was coaching him, I would approach him shooting with his right hand. He shoots with his left, right? I would approach him. I mean, at this point, it can't hurt. You know what I mean?
I saw a tweet today. They said that was on the table.
If he becomes confident in it, you know what I mean? It's better than not having confidence in his normal shot. I think that might help him.
I think there's ways that we can use Ben Simmons. Obviously not on the perimeter, on the perimeter as someone that can facilitate, but not someone that's going to knock shots down. But in the post, I think that with his size, he can do so much in the post area. I feel like he can dominate that area if we just give him some coaching, give him some confidence in that area. I feel like if you put the right players around him, I think that he can really succeed and be successful as an offensive player if we put him in the post and use that part of his game.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that he's a game changer. There's no doubt about it in my mind that he's a game changer. I just think for what we need, Lonzo Ball just makes more sense at the price, or another guard, at the price makes more sense, because you don't have to give up anything to get those guys, and they can provide the shooting that you need on the team. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this, Sim. What if all they wanted was a salary relief and draft picks?
Whew, I mean,
does that change your
it does.
opinion?
It does.
Right?
It definitely changes my opinion, because $35 million, you still got money to spend to get other players, right? You still got RJ Barrett, you got Randall, so you now though, if I'm bringing in Ben Simmons and he's going to be playing my point guard, because you're not bringing him in to play power forward, right? Because you still got Randall. Mm-hmm. Now we definitely got to go get a
shooter,
3-point shooting at the 5, a 3-point shooter at the 5, right? So you start thinking like Kelly Olynyk or something like that, right? Because to me, you can only afford to have one position on the floor that's not going to shoot the 3 in today's league. If that, you can't have 2, right? So we would have Elfrid Payton and Mitchell Robinson or Nerlens Noel on the floor. You had 2 positions. Your 2 the 2 points of your point guard and your center that couldn't shoot the ball. So if you're going to have Ben Simmons, if they did say, hey, we'll give you Ben Simmons for cap relief, now you got to look, he's making $35 million plus for the next 4 or 5 years. You got to get a center then that can shoot it from three, right? Because then you can take Ben Simmons and have him, to negate that 3-point, his inability to shoot the three, you can have him facilitate from the post.
Or you can put him at the 3 and then go out and get a point guard.
Oh, you could do that too.
Yeah,
but I like my 3 to be able to shoot.
Or you could just unleash Mitchell Robinson.
You said you can
unleash it from where? The 3-point line?
Unleash it from the 3-point line?
You can take the handcuffs off. I mean,
hey, take them off.
You know what I mean? It's an option. Like, hey, if you want to stick around, you're gonna have to evolve this. And it's not like he doesn't want to. You know what I mean? From everything we've read, you know what I mean? He wants to do it. So the restriction is not coming from him. You know what I mean? So
right.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
Now hitting Murphy in the chat, he said cap relief doesn't affect Philly because right now they're at 147 million. If you take away Ben Simmons' salary, if you take away his salary, they're at 30, probably 112 million, which is right at the projected salary cap for next year, 112 million.
So they got to move. Then they got to move Tobias. So
they'd have to move some other pieces in order to get under the cap if that's what they were looking to do. I'm pretty sure they're still going to be looking to contend. Because, they're at 147 million. Ben Simmons makes 33 million next year. He makes 35 million in 22-23, 37 million in 23-24, and 40 million in 24-25. And that's straight up. There's no team option or player option in that deal.
So they can only acquire or use salary cap if it's in a trade. We have to make it some kind of 3-team trade where we're absorbing salary. Maybe we're absorbing salaries from somewhere else also. Maybe we get that 3-team trade and pick up a 5 that could shoot in that.
You talking about KP and Ben in the same trade?
Let me ask you this.
Wow.
Let me ask you this. And I doubt that Philly would do it. But if they made him available, and everyone listening, this is a if. If they made him available, would you get Tobias Harris?
In like the both of them or just Harris?
Just Harris. Would you make a move for Tobias Harris?
How much is he making?
He fits a need at the 3. He obviously can shoot the 3. He can go back and forth between the 3 and the 4 if you need him. He does make a lot. He makes 36 million next year, 37 million in 22-23, and 39 million in 23-24.
I do it.
I do it too, but not only will we be getting the player, I want to win the trade. So now we're really talking about salary. Excuse me, absorbing salary. I'm not trying to give up anything of value. To be honest, I want to plug him in with the team I got. I might throw Obi in there just so they have some type of replacement with fan. The fans could get excited over. But I wouldn't. I'm definitely not looking at a starter. I'm not looking at RJ Randall.
It's just a lot of. I mean, it's a lot of money. Has Tobias Harris ever made an All-Star team?
Yeah, I think so. I think at the very least
one. Yeah, one last year. Was it last year?
His first time.
Yeah.
I think what it comes down to is, and we got to ask ourselves this question as Knicks fans, right? Because every time look, everyone's saying the Knicks don't have enough talent. The Knicks don't have enough talent. Do we think the current group of young players that we have are going to develop into something? Are we really banking on that? Because it seems to me that every time we throw a name out there, people, I'm not saying anyone here, but people highlight deficiencies in other players. But then come, playoff series time, we say the Knicks don't have any talent. So at what point are we gonna be like, okay, we need to go out and we need to give up some of our assets in order to get better, to bring in some better players? We have the money, we have the assets. I don't understand why people are so hesitant to move assets and move players.
Because it has to be because it's so delicate, right? It has to be the right player. I'm not afraid to move assets to acquire a player. But when I move those assets to acquire a player, I want to know that I'm bringing in a player that's going to fit what I do and is going to provide the production that I need. And when I'm looking at a player whose contract is making between 35 and 40 million for the next 4 years, I'm going to look deeply into that player to make sure that this guy is definitely going to move us forward. If I'm questioning whether or not this guy is going to move us forward, then it's probably not the guy.
Well, Sam, let me ask you this question.
At that price. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm questioning it, then it's got to be the right price for me to question it. Like, for example, Julius Randle, when they signed Julius Randle, right? The question was, can this guy become an all-star? So they didn't pay him like he was an all-star. They paid him like a guy that they were wondering, could he become an all-star? So they gave him $20 million a year, right? So if I'm paying 35, 40 million, I want to know this guy is taking me over the top or is pushing us far forward, pushing his way forward. That's why, I think, it's delicate. And I just don't want to throw money at somebody.
Well, Sam, the Knicks went to before this past season, right? The Knicks have not made the playoffs in a long time. Then we get to the first round this year, and people are saying that we don't have enough talent, right? So my thing is, what does over the top mean? Does over the top mean a championship? Does over the top mean a second round playoff series? Does it mean conference finals? So to me, I think that
pushing you forward. That's what I'm saying. Pushing you forward. If I'm paying $35 million for a guy, he's got to push me forward. I can't stay at 41 wins or whatever that would equate to in the 82 games.
So what about a second round playoff series?
I mean, it means a lot to a lot of different people, man. Because people just want consistency, All
right, let's be specific and ask: does Tobias Tobias Harris push us forward? Because I think he does ultimately.
But see, I think he does. I think he does push us forward, but I think there's probably players out there that make a lot less that can do the same thing that he does and pushes us forward too. And that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you got to find that balance, I think.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think we could go get a Kelly Oubre that can help push us forward and not pay him $35 million.
But a lot of fans are cringing at that because Kelly Oubre, I'll never pay him. They didn't even want to pay him $10 million. We're talking about 20.
That's the funny thing because I agree. Logically, we could get Oubre and Ball for $35 million.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's a big improvement for our team. That's two gaps. You know what I mean? For the price of one. You can't even call Harris a superstar. You know what I mean? So we're paying. Right. So in that aspect, that would be the smartest way to go.
Do they push us forward though?
Do they? How? All right. Look at it. Just
does Lonzo and Kelly Oubre together?
Is Lonzo?
Do they push us forward?
Is Lonzo an upgrade over Peyton?
Yeah, I mean, yes. If you look at it,
that's all. That's the only way you should look at it.
And because then Barrett, Barrett and Oubre.
But
not even Barrett. I would think you would be replacing Bullock.
But to me,
Bullock. That's what I mean.
But what I'm saying is, to me, it's not just about replacing the player that was there previously, right? Because so many different things go into improving the team and improving a win total and getting to a second round of a playoff series. So I think so many other things go into it, and this kind of feeds into what you guys are saying about, or what Sim is saying about going after the right player and the right players, right? So yes, they individually at a certain position, yes, they upgrade at that position. But to me, Kelly Oubre and Lonzo Ball do not, for me, improve this team's win total. Not to me. I'm looking at those players like, okay, yeah, they're really good players. The upgrades over what we used to have.
Really?
I disagree.
I agree with what you, man. I agree with that.
You don't think they push our win total forward?
No, because to me, I think the thing that for the most part, if you look in the history of the NBA, it's been this way. Outside of what the Knicks did last year, what pushes win totals forward and what moves the team from from I guess the dungeon to advances in playoff series is superstars and great NBA players. I think that more than anything else, pushes a team forward rather than upgrade at that position. If you don't have anything, upgrade at that position. Okay, yeah, the Knicks are going to win 43 games instead of 41. To me, that's not a substantial.
Yeah, it's still a fourth seed.
But let me say this. Even if it doesn't push our win total forward, I still think we would be a better team, right? And that doesn't have to always do with your win total, right? Look at the Milwaukee Bucks. 2 years ago, they were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're better now without a bigger win total. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just, the construction of your team. It may not always end up in a bigger win total because even in that first year, it may take time for the team to, gel, get, find what's going to work for them or whatever. And then you want them to be hitting their stride when it comes to the playoffs. I think if you take Lonzo Ball and Kelly Oubre and replace Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock, and maybe you still have Reggie Bullock on the bench, right? And, you still got to fill out your bench. I think that makes us a better team. Win total or not, I think we're a better basketball team.
But how do you judge progression, though? That's what I'm saying.
I think Josh doesn't think it pushes the needles in the playoffs.
I think that makes us better in the playoffs.
I mean, I think just getting there this year is going to make us better next year, 100%.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's why I'm not looking to jump to the finals and win a championship. Like, if it happens, yes, I want that to happen. But I don't mind us getting better year by year and learning how to advance and learning how to get over a hump. Like people want to jump to the finish line when it's baby steps that you got to take. Realistically, I'm okay with us getting to the second round next year, maybe second round and seventh game. You know what I mean? And then progressing the year after that. If we win a chip, I love it, but we can't try to jump to the finish line without the baby steps.
I think teams like the Lakers, they've shown you that just because you bring in a whole abundance of talent, that's not necessarily going to get you to the finish line. What I was talking about as far as bringing in star players or superstar players or great players, that's not going to take you from first round to the finals. Not all the time. It doesn't happen that way. But what Sim mentioned was progression, right? And if we're not judging progression off of wins and losses or playoff series victories, but just making us a better team, to me, that's not real progression. Yes, the team will be better at that point, and the team will probably compete a little bit better. But at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. So 41 wins the Knicks had a pretty good season last year, right? But to me, if you're not looking to improve that, to get up into those top seeds in the Eastern Conference, what are you really building? What I don't understand.
But Josh, we was a top seed.
We was a top seed in the Eastern Conference.
That's the point I'm trying to make, though.
Right.
That's the point I'm trying to make. We're already a fourth seed, so you're talking about wins and losses. Like Atlanta right now, their record is lower than what it should have been. Next year, they're more than likely going to be a little bit higher. You're talking about Brooklyn and all these other different teams too. So if the Knicks get better, even if they get Oubre with Lonzo, we still probably just going to be a fourth seed again. You know what I'm saying? So we're not really.
But I think if the Eastern Conference playoffs haven't showed us anything, it showed us this. You ain't got to be a top 4 seed to win.
It's all about matchups.
Right? It's about
we're talking about the forward movement, though. You're talking about forward movement of the team and all.
So the forward movement to me is advancing in the playoffs. Not if we're the top 4 seed, right? Because you look at Brooklyn, Philadelphia is number 1 seed. They lost to the 5th seed. Brooklyn is number 2 seed, right? Who they lose to? The 3rd seed, right? We were the number 4 seed. We lost to the 5th seed as well. I think, to me, it's about winning in the playoffs, whether you're a 4th seed or a 5th seed or a 6th seed. It's about winning in the playoffs. I think that adding those 2 players, and you're still going to add your bench out, does make us a better team. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying it's going to win us a championship, but it strengthens the foundation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it does make us a better team, yes. But we're still talking about still being where we are now, record-wise. Maybe a little bit better if you want to say that. But, definitely you're still going to be in the same spot, but whether or not we get better or not. Other teams are going to get better too. You have to put all that into the equation.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. If we did nothing, right, and we came back with the same exact team, obviously probably minus Peyton and some kind of fill in, or maybe we fill in with somebody on the roster spot. Do you not think we'll improve as a team going forward?
To me, that's kind of hard to say. To me, that's really hard to say because one, like you said, you have to bring all these players back, right? So one, you have to pay them a lot more money than what they were making last season in order to keep them around because teams are going to be vying for their services. Not
necessarily, but even if we use the cap space and we bring the same team back and say we like the chemistry of this or the front office, we like the chemistry of this team. We fell short in the playoffs, but we feel like we could improve off the way we played in the playoffs and the way we played this whole season. You would disagree with the organization in feeling that way?
100%.
You would doubt that this team could play better moving forward?
100%, because other teams in the Eastern Conference are constantly getting better. Other teams in the conference are getting better. The teams that we played last year are not going to be the same teams. They're going to be looking to get better. Philly has Daryl Morey running the front office. He's going to try to move Ben Simmons to try to get better, not to get worse.
I think if there's one thing Julius Randle showed us is that players can get better too,
right?
And that changes the dynamic. And I think I would think the rest of the Knicks, looking at what Julius did, coming from a season ago to this season, they're gonna be like, hey, yo, I need to make a jump too. I need to work on, you know what I mean? And there's already chemistry. I think we could improve. Not saying I want us to stand pat, but I think chemistry and development as a group breeds progress in itself.
So Tone, let me ask you a question though. So 60 to 70% of the Knicks roster were on 1-year deals from last year, right? So if most of those players don't come back, what foundation do the Knicks really have? If you look at it that way, what foundation are we really building? Yeah, we have Randall there.
The foundation weren't those guys. Those guys weren't the foundation.
Okay, but they were a part of the foundation. They were a part of the culture. They were a part of that camaraderie that we're talking about.
But that's on every team in the league, though. If you look at Philadelphia has a bunch of guys whose contracts. Danny Green, his contract expires this year. Dwight Howard's contract expires this year. Korkmaz's contract expires this year. Those guys were rotation players, right? Their rocks are Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid. Those are their guys.
So that's what I'm saying. Who are our guys? RJ Barrett and Julius Randle? Is that what we're banking it on?
I believe it's RJ, Randle, Mitch. I think that the team is high on Mitch, whether or not all of us fans are. But I think yes, that is the foundation.
So if that's the case, then there's no reason for us to be fixated on bringing a lot of these guys back. We can go out and get better players to surround those guys with. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't think anybody argues that though. I think we all agree that if it's an upgrade, it's an upgrade. That's why I say Lonzo Ball. That's an upgrade.
Right, but what we're saying is, at least what I'm saying is, putting your money in the right places, not just throwing it out there because, this guy has a history of playing good basketball or has these stats. And so we're going to throw him $35 million. I don't think everybody deserves $35 million. I think you gotta put the right guys in place to make sure that you are still able to add to your team, right? You got to have the right contracts in place so that when and if one of these stars do pop up and you're able to get it, you're not struck with some kind of contract and no assets where you can't make a move. So I think you got to be smart in the way that you continue to progress and not just always be like, we're going to get there. And a team is down 20. What do they tell them? You can't make it up in one shot. You can't make up 20 points with 1-3. So don't just come down launching threes. I think it's the same type of a concept. You know what I'm saying? Let's not try to get it all in one deal. Let's, if you can't get one of these big guys, make smart deals players that can come in and be part of what you're doing, but still have contracts so that if something pops up, if and when, because it's the NBA, you know it's going to, you have the ability to make a move. You know what I'm saying? To get one of those guys in here.
I agree. I think we're all saying the same thing. It is a delicate balance that you can't just throw your money out there. But there's a lot of rhetoric coming from Knicks fans that we don't want this player because this player doesn't do this, this, and that. When if you look at our roster, we don't have a player that's not nearly as good as that player that we're talking about. Like people were talking about Derrick Rose making a trade at the deadline to go get Derrick Rose. A lot of people were like, "Oh, we don't want this player because he's going to do this, take minutes away from Quickly, and do this and that." This guy was one of the best bench players in the NBA this season, right? So I think Knicks fans have this fear that if you go out and you go get a great player, that all of a sudden you're going to cap strap yourself and that you won't be able to do anything else. They think everything is about Carmelo, which I just totally disagree with that rhetoric. At some point, you got to swing the bat. You can't sit there and take strike three all the time. And for what I've been looking at what the Knicks have been doing, even when they went out to go get Julius Randle, the Knicks have been sitting there just waiting and signing these stopgap players and waiting. And after 3-4 years, you got all this cap space. What are we saving the cap space for? You got to spend the money at some point, not on anybody, but spend the money. Like, you know, it's nothing wrong with going out and getting a great player.
I want to go back to what you were saying about the whole running back thing. You know, like that's the reason why that nobody wants to add nobody, because they're afraid to take away minutes and developing all their fun guys they like to play around with. But I mean, like if you use your imagination, RJ Barrett, could come in next year and be like a 28 a game scorer because he developed so well. Mitchell Robinson can get the 3-pointer that we were joking about earlier. And then that's everybody's dream to build within, and all of a sudden Frank Ntilikina is going to become like the greatest player in the history of the world. But the whole thing what we're all trying to say is that like there's a way to get better. And I think we all kind of know how to do it, but it's just that we're fighting against fans that are just warped with PTSD, all the things that happened in the past. They're afraid for anything good or bad to happen to them. You know what I'm saying? They just don't want you to do nothing. They let RJ don't bring no good players here. Just let RJ blossom. Let Kevin Knox play the kids. Play Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox is going to become this great player. So we're all fighting this thing. And all of our shows in the comments. I'm looking at the comments. People are saying stuff. It's just weird, man.
So, but see, Josh. But Julius Randle is, to me, he is proof of how you use your money when you're not getting the star players, right? The Knicks, they had cap space. They wanted to try to get Kyrie and KD. It didn't happen. So they said, okay, let's go get. And you know what? What's crazy is they knew way before even free agency started. They knew it. That's the reason why Julius Randle was signed so quick, right? Scott Perry, I think it was Scott Perry, wrote something, or whoever wrote something that they knew way before everybody, a long time, that KD wasn't coming to the Knicks. So they said, boom, we want Julius Randle. Months before they were in LA, they seen Julius Randle eat up Kristaps Porzingis, and they said, if we get a chance to get this guy, we want to go get this guy. Right. So what did they do? They said, we're not getting KD or Kyrie. We're going to take our money and we're going to put it into a player that we think could possibly pop off. And it worked. And I think that's the way that you spend the money on a short contracts on players that could possibly take a leap. You know what I mean? If you can't get those big guys. So you spend it, but you spend it wisely. And if you spend it with short contracts, short digestible contracts, then when it does come time for a player, an elite player, you got these short digestible contracts. People aren't afraid to trade for these players because they know, it's $20 million for the next year. I can handle that. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. So I think that's the way you got to use it if you're not going to get one of those big guys.
I agree with that.
Kelly Oubre and Ball right there, right?
That's what I'm saying. Kelly Oubre and Ball fit that mold.
And it took a year for Randle to pop, right? It took him time to adjust. Sim, who was the point guard that we both talked about saying we wouldn't mind Julius Randle and who?
And D'Angelo Russell.
And what was the reason behind saying both of those two guys? Because if you watch their careers, they progressed. year after year after year. They got better. Whether their teams did or not, you could argue. But D'Lo showed what he could do on the Nets. That was his peak, and Randall was progressing each year. When you're gonna build and try to get better, if you're not shooting for the fences, or if you can't get a superstar, that's the kind of guys that you got to bring in. Guys that are constantly getting better.
Jordan Clarkson's another guy.
Actually, everybody the Lakers let go.
The Lakers could have had a squad, boy.
Actually, but they needed time to grow into who they was.
Yeah.
But the trajectory was there already.
Yeah.
So and that's part of the reason a lot of fans don't want to let go of some of these guys, particularly RJ Barrett. What we got from Quickly, I'm super high on him. I just know that if we do a trade, we got to give up something. So.
Yeah, but fans don't even want to take on a player because they're afraid it's going to mess up the development of the guys we already have. That's right. Insane to me.
That's the rhetoric that I can't agree with. That right there.
I think you got to look at every situation through its own lens. I mean, if fans are just holding that for every trade possible, then they're crazy. But you got to look at every particular person, every particular option in its own lens. You know what I mean? And I think that's the best way to approach it.
I was stumping for Julius Randle and D'Angelo Russell. I did a video about it and everything. Imagine if we had D'Angelo Russell with this team right here, right now.
And you know what? That might be an option that's on the table. I know he has a great relationship with Cat, but they got a clear draft pick coming up where they may take the best available player, which may end up being a point guard. So that may put him on the trading block.
Does anybody have any reservations about us bringing another lefty to this team? Because I hear all the time, well, we don't want another lefty player on the floor because that's 3 left-handed players. So I'm like, well, what's the difference between having that and 3 right-handed players?
Yeah. I've heard that on ESPN. I've never heard it like in
Julius Randle is not a one-handed player. Majority of Julius Randle's baskets came from the right side of the floor. That fadeaway jump shot on the baseline, on the right baseline, that's his shot. The right wing, that's his shot. His highest percentages on the basketball floor, shooting percentages, come from the right side of the floor. So I don't think that's necessarily true, that he's just a left-handed player. He can't go his right. Well, I don't agree with that.
I think because he likes to bring it back to his left. So if he's on the right, he takes 2 strong drills, boom, boom, and then he can bring it back to his left to pull it up. Well, I did the opposite. But, like me, I like to drive to my left and then pull back up with my right. I think a lot of people that are right-handed like to do that. Drive to the left, pull back up with the right. Left-handed people drive to the right, pull back up with their left maybe. I really don't care if they're right-handed or left-handed. It doesn't bother me. Defenses, defenders, a lot of times don't like to defend left-handed players, because sometimes it's so opposite for them. And for the most part, I don't think it's going to matter much. In football, it might matter, right? You got a left-handed quarterback now. You need to have a stronger, left tackle with right tackle. You know what I'm saying? So that might matter. But if you're basketball, I don't think it matters much.
I got a question. Would you guys prefer to trade for a D'Lo or pursue Lonzo?
I like D'Lo better because you can run plays through him.
I like D'Lo better too.
On the ball, you can give D'Lo the ball and run plays through him, make him a facilitator or make him a scorer. With Lonzo Ball, I feel like you can't do that.
It's the same trade, though.
What do you mean?
It's the same trade, though. Because we're going to be talking about taking, absorbing the contract, giving draft picks, or trading RJ. It's the same scenario.
You're giving up some. The only thing with D'Angelo is his contract is a lot shorter. Right. Yeah. He's got 2 years. He's got next year and a year after left on his contract. It's a little bit less, $30 million in 2021, 22, $31 million in 22, 23, but you're still going to have to give up a lot to get him.
And RJ is not playing with Ant-Man. He's going to veto that. He'll threaten to retire or something.
So, I mean, I don't know. This point guard, what we do at that point guard position is going to be Leon Rose, they're in a tricky situation.
Emmanuel quickly.
They're in a tricky situation. Let me tell you. I mean, I don't think Quickly's going to be. I don't think he's a starting point guard. At least not right now. Not right now.
Everybody's crying about him not being in the all rookie first team. So what is he? Nobody wants to trade him so he can sit on the bench and play 10, 15 minutes a game.
I mean, I think he's going to be a 30-minute per night guy. I don't know if he's going to be a point guard. I think he's going to be a lightning bug, right?
He could be like Jamal Murray.
I mean, I guess he's still young. He still has a lot of ways to go. So we'll see what he develops into.
I think at this point, his ceiling would be Lou Williams.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. But I mean, his career just started, so I mean, he could.
No, I'm saying he could surpass that in a couple of years. I'm saying his young career, he could do what Lou Williams has been doing recently. Like I don't know what his absolute career ceiling, he could surpass that easily. But I mean, like, if he had the minutes and if he had more of a leash, I think he could put up Lou Williams numbers today, right? Like right now.
Probably so.
Yeah, his per 36 minute stats say that. It's like averaging like 18 points a game per 36, I think.
Right.
So
I don't know. This, Leon Rose and the staff, they got a tricky job this offseason and how they try to push this team forward. Tricky job.
Another scenario that we're not looking at is we got to look at Tom Thibodeau. He's not getting any younger. He is probably one of the oldest coaches in the NBA outside of Pop, right? So how long is Thibodeau going to be here? We talking about building that foundation. Thibodeau is a huge part of that foundation, right? So how much longer are we going to sit back and, not be aggressive? You know what I'm saying? So that's something else we got to look at when we taking, who we're going to bring in. So
I mean, that's true. And I guess, you got to, how many years did Tom Thibodeau sign for?
5.
It's 5 years? 5-year deal?
The standard Jim Dolan contract, 5 years.
So, I mean, I guess, they're looking at him as the guy to build the foundation and take them there. If you're looking at rebuilding your team, most of the time it's about 5 years. So they're looking at Tom Thibodeau as, hey, we need you to build this foundation and take us there. So, yeah, you gotta find players that Tom Thibodeau wants, players that he likes, and give him the opportunity to do his job. So it definitely plays a factor.
Johnny Bryan is the associate head coach, so maybe he's the guy they're going to be grooming to stick in that spot.
Maybe
it's going to be hard to keep him that long. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
He's young, man. He's not even 40 years old. That is young.
I know, but he's gonna get some opportunities before Thibodeau's contract is up. Yeah. All right. I appreciate you guys coming on. I got one last question. I want you guys to predict best case scenario. You don't have to say how it happens. Who's our point guard next year? I'll start.
Father goes first.
I'll start.
I was gonna put it on Sim.
And I'm gonna say, and this is because I believe it's gonna happen. So I'm sticking with the Chris Paul. I think we snag him and give him a 3-year, maybe 4-year contract. I hope it's 3-year, but I think
4 years.
I'm telling you, he's dealing with his own old agent. So it may be it may be a team option, 4th year player option 3rd, but it's gonna be extended. It's at least 3. I know.
How much money per year are you willing to give up?
I'll be honest. Don't kill me, but I think he's gonna get that Gordon Hayward contract with a with a team option. I mean, with a team option, 4th year. That's 30 million, 120. I think that's what it is. But that's me, and I know I said best case scenario, but I think that's what I'm going with.
Best case scenario, you say. Best case. I mean, I think the Knicks are going to end up with Lonzo Ball. I do. I think they're gonna end up with Lonzo.
Okay, Josh.
Oh wow. To be honest, I don't even know what the Knicks are gonna do. I would rather someone else other than Lonzo. I think they take a shot at Spencer Dinwiddie. They pay him on the low because of his injury history, and I think he improves the team. So I would say Spencer Dinwiddie. If I had to say, put some money on who the Knicks will go after, I would say it'd be him.
And real quick, when you say on the low, you know he turned down 14.5, right?
I think he wanted a different locker room to be in. I think that's what it came down to. I don't think it was about the money. I think he just wanted to change the scenery. That kind of thing.
Die hard.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Spencer Dinwiddie. He would be a guy that like aside from all the drama and stuff that his mouth that he likes to chirp and stuff. Aside from all that skill wise, he would be probably really nice. I'm not a fan of Lonzo Ball. People are saying Lowry in the chat. I don't know about Lowry. But Lowry, he seems to like Tom Thibodeau.
I like Lowry.
Yeah, I like him. I like him too a little bit.
I like Lowry. I just feel like the Knicks are going to. I do believe that there'll be a veteran point guard, but I think they're going to try to stay the course of players that are 24, 25, 26 years old, and try to let this thing grow up a little bit. Now, I can see Spencer Dinwiddie and Lonzo Ball.
Well, I'm going to be problematic and make everybody mad. Quickly is my starting point guard. How about that?
Okay. I ain't mad at that.
Hey,
nobody's going to agree with that.
If Tom Thibodeau wants to rock with it, I'm rocking with it. You know what I'm saying? Let him. I don't think that he's ready to do the job, but if Tom Thibodeau thinks so, I don't care. But I think you can have Lonzo Ball and Spencer Dinwiddie, right? Because Lonzo Ball can also play off the ball. He can knock down the threes, 6'6", so he can defend twos. He can defend threes, as can Spencer Dinwiddie. You know what I mean? I think you can have both of those guys, and you might be able to get both of those guys at a good price. And now you filled both of them.
Oh, like the 1 and the 2. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, you got the 1, the 2, and the 3. Yeah, both of them start. So, because Lonzo is 6'6", and RJ is 6'7". So you can have RJ and Lonzo at the 2 and the 3, and Spencer Dinwiddie at the 1, or if you don't, or you can, however Tom Thibodeau is running his sets, sometimes Spencer Dinwiddie may be the facilitator. Sometimes Lonzo Ball may be the facilitator. Sometimes RJ Barrett might be the facilitator, or Julius Randle.
And then we put Lonzo on the to guard the 3, and RJ to guard the 2, Spencer to guard the 1.
You could
to change that.
I mean, they'll probably interchange, especially RJ and Lonzo probably interchange. How much is Spencer Dinwiddie going to want?
I mean, Josh is saying that it wasn't about the money, so maybe he takes that 14 or less from somewhere else. He thinks he wanted to change the scenery.
I think it comes down to that. Frustrated, you know what I'm saying? That because they went out to get Kyrie. Kyrie took it's going to take that spot over anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's more about that rather than anything else about money. Because I don't see no other team paying him over $15-20 million. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think he hits 20. I really don't. Not coming off an injury without anything any type of show improve. Real quick, I do want to tell the chat I appreciate you guys. I know I haven't interacted. I'm not used to 4 heads on the screen at once. So I'm gonna just randomly pick a comment and shout out the Queen's Court. She said, if healthy, she likes Dinwiddie. And I don't know if you guys are in the chat too, but if y'all want to pick out a random comment, that's cool too. But shout out to everybody who's tuning in. Appreciate you guys.
Guys are talking about trades. It said Fultz, because Orlando has a lot of point guards.
Thinking about that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another cheap option, but he's also injury type player. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, he would be cheap though. I mean, he should be cheap. And I just want to. My biggest worry about a trade, let's talk about that PTSD, is I just want to I want a definitive win when we do a trade. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that I'm nervous about. I don't want to give up too much for anybody, and I want to know going, after the trade is like, yeah, we won that trade. Not we'll see 3 years down the line, we'll determine. Like I want to look at it right now and be like, yeah, we got our guy, and didn't give up much to do it.
Yo, shout out to Guillermo. He put up Reggie Jackson for Reggie Jackson's playing his behind off in the playoffs right now. He's playing really, really well. So I mean, I wouldn't be so mad about that. What do you guys think about?
I would love him for a while.
I love him too. The only thing is, if they don't win a championship, that's what he's gonna be chasing. If he wins a championship, he may decide to go where the money is. You know what I mean? If the Clippers happen to win, if they don't win, he's gonna chase a ring. That's why he waited so long to you know what I mean, to get with the Clippers. But he's definitely balling out.
Yeah.
You don't even see Rondo.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Yeah, he benches Rondo.
But hey, everybody wanted to give Rondo, thought Leon Rose should have gave Rondo 2 years, $15 million for the Knicks.
I was one of them. I was on the Rondo train. I ain't gonna lie.
I wanted him for 1 year. I could have did it for 1 year. I didn't want to give him 2 years.
Well, his role on the Knicks, if we would have got Rondo, I think his role would have been significantly bigger here than in with the Clippers. You know what I'm saying? Because
he was in Atlanta first, and then they traded him.
Yeah, and his role was not very big in Atlanta.
Right. So
and they kind of won after they moved him.
Yeah.
so it is tough. But I think
going on?
I think his role here would have been more of a natural fit, just because he would have been our best option at the position. Like, there's no question about
it. No question about that.
You know what I mean? Like in Atlanta, he knew he wasn't going to be the starter, number one, and then Lou Williams' offensive production is guaranteed. So you know what I mean? It kind of gave him a lesser of a role there.
Right. So why did LA do? Why did LA do the deal?
The Clippers,
because they needed a point guard. They needed a point guard. They didn't have a point guard at the time. It turns out that Rondo wasn't.
They didn't use him.
Right, they didn't use him. But at the time, everyone was knocking the Clippers, saying they needed a point guard because Kawhi and PG couldn't do it. That was their biggest knock from last season.
And I think Lou Williams is stuck in that role of six man. You know what I mean? Nobody's bringing him in to potentially start.
It was a chicken wings for him.
When it comes to Rondo, at the very least, I think they felt like playoff time. Rondo's starting,
right?
You know what I mean? And that wasn't an option at all for Lou Williams.
Yeah. I do want to. Ace of Spades says, "Sim, would you do Miles Turner for Mitchell Robinson? Do a Miles Turner for Mitchell Robinson swap?" Yes, I would. I've said it before, and I say it again. Yes, I would. I would definitely swap the two. I like Miles Turner. He can shoot the three, he can block shots, he rebounds. He can play a little bit in the post. He can do some things that Mitchell Robinson can't do. He can't get up like Mitchell Robinson can, and he's not as athletic as Mitchell Robinson, but I think he has more skills than Mitchell Robinson.
Would you do Wiseman for Mitch?
Yeah.
Wiseman for Mitch?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that say hell no. A lot of people saying hell no because they expected Mitch's 3-point shot that he shoots like this. With his cousins is gonna be like, who's gonna come out or something.
That's the Sean Marion. So I want to go on record and say that I was wrong about Knox. Like,
me too.
I was wrong about him. I was a Knoxer for real. And I still wish him the best. I hope he could turn out and reach his potential. I was one of those guys that didn't believe in the whole motor question, and now at this point, it has to be some type of lack of motor. I mean, he still has the skill set. You know what I mean? And even though I've seen a little bit of progression and growth, it's not been enough at this point, and we missed out on a lot of different guys that year.
I still think he has a role in this league, though. I think with a different team,
I agree.
That's more faster pace. I feel like he can thrive Like a team like Brooklyn could have used him, another shooter on the floor. A team like Houston can use him. Teams that are more up-tempo, I think that fits his style more than what the Knicks are doing in the half court, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. Listen, I think next year the Knicks will have to give him a qualifying offer or renounce his rights after next season. I think they probably, you see cut kicks. He says, wait until, he gets a year with Tom Thibodeau. I think he's talking about Knox. I think he's talking about Knox there. And I think the Knicks want to wait too for a year, see what happens, see what kind of offseason regimen they give him, see how he comes back. And if he's not doing what he got to do, they let him rock.
I think he's a contract filler for a trade at this point.
Could be. But I agree with you, Josh. I still believe he's going to find a spot someplace and be a decent ball player.
100%.
Yep, I think he's going to find a spot someplace to be a decent ball player.
His problem is not skill because he has everything, but everything is in his mind. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like he need to hang out with us one night, have some beers, shoot the shit, and just kind of relax. Show him how to relax.
He's not even old enough to drink yet.
Is he?
Like 20 years old.
He's 21, right? He's 21.
Yeah, I think he's
21. He can drink. He can have a drink. He's 21.
Yeah, he's just goofy, man. He has a lot of learning to do in the world just to I don't know. He's just bugged out. I can't get it. I don't know what's up with him.
And hopefully, I mean, that's where vets come in too. Because you know what I mean. Like, but who do we have in that position to kind of put him under his wing? Like,
J.R. Smith. We could bring J.R. Smith back.
Right. Taj is more of a big. You know what I mean, and not a similar game. And Randall maybe the closest, which Randall's still learning. He's he's considered a vet, but he's not a seasoned vet. You know what I mean, he's still getting the seasoning. So
maybe Leon Rose. It doesn't have to be a vet from our team. He could work with somebody from another team over the summer. So maybe Leon Rose can, hook him up with somebody. He's friends with Melo and them guys. Leon Rose, maybe he can hook him up with somebody. I did see Latrell Sprewell said didn't Knox happen off season with Tibbs last year, but it wasn't a typical off season. So RJ was in, he was in Florida. Who knows what he was doing over the off season. So and who knows if Tom Thibodeau was able to give those guys an off-season plan. So, let's see if he gives them an off-season plan and see what happens.
Basketball aside, I'm fat. The reason why I'm fat is because I eat a lot. You know what I'm saying? I eat a lot and I don't exercise. You know what I'm saying? So that's the reason why I'm fat. So what's the reason why that he can't, get it in the thing? It's not off-season regimen because they all play ball constantly, and every time you look around, you see seeing Knox running through pads and all kind of stuff with the Rocky music playing in the background and stuff. It's the
same thing that Clyde told us at Clyde's Wine and Dine.
No, it's definitely Savvy. RJ was in Florida. His family lives in Florida. He's
from Tampa.
He went from when he left Canada, he played in Florida, right? And then he, went to college. But different coaches give you something different to work on. You know what I mean? So who knows? You talk about last year going from whoever, Mike Miller, who didn't know if he was coming back, did that coaching staff actually give the players an off-season regimen? Probably not, right? Because they probably knew they weren't coming back, so they probably didn't give him an off-season regimen. Not to say, and I'm not taking anything away from Kevin Knox, he's got to have his own people that say this is what you need to do to build. But when you talk about a coach who's putting a system into place, they're going to tell a player, this is what I want you to do to fit my system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know. We'll see. But it's on him. It's on him. He's got to, he's got to take it personal that this should have been a year that, if not became a starter, was a rotational player. And he started off the season as a rotation player. Tom Thibodeau put some trust in that guy to knock down shots, and he lost it. He went from playing 20 minutes a night to none.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's got to take that responsibility on himself. You know, and go and talk and say, Coach, what did I do? Why am I not playing? What do I got to do to get better? And then he's got to go. He's got to work on it, do it in the offseason and come back with those tools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the Knicks are just going to continue to add players, add better players. You know what I'm saying? They're going to continue to add better players. And if he's not keeping up, he'll be gone.
Yeah, we might draft another player better than to push him down, just like we did quickly with Frank.
Yeah.
Pushing guys further down the thing.
He'll be gone. So, it's on him. It's on him to do it.
But hey,
I tell you what, Tony.
What's that?
And some people in the chat is going to hate that I say this, but you said you think the Knicks going to end up with CP3, and I'm going to predict it now. If the Knicks end up with CP3 or Damian Lillard, Melo is coming along with them.
I'm pointing to my picture of Melo right there.
Melo is coming along with them, ladies and gentlemen. Trust and believe.
That'd be good for Knox. That's that veteran that can help him.
Perfect for Knox. That'd be perfect for Knox. So if that happens, Carmelo Anthony is coming along with him. He'll be back.
So Knox is going to be babysitting Melo's twins. Melo got some twins.
He probably will. He probably will be baby. Probably will. I love it though. I love it.
Oh, I would love to see that.
I would love it, man. I would love it.
But,
I love it.
I'm gonna head off, man. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate the chat, the panel. Your Blackest Time. I'm gonna end off with my last words and then give you guys your last words. One thing that's really bothered me is after that post game after the Brooklyn Nets loss, and all Harden talked about was his injury, which I hate that. If you injured, that's fine, but you played. So if you played, I don't want to hear about the injury, because if you won, you wasn't going to be saying how tough it was to play with that injury. You know what I mean? Just give the kudos to the other team and come back next year healthy. But and Durant had a hell of a series, man. I gotta salute him, even though they lost, and I was rooting for them to lose. But he played great.
He definitely cooked. Yeah, I agree with you. And I know Josh. I don't know if Tony. I don't know if you wanted any comments on this or not. So it's up to you. You know what I mean? It's up to you. Did you want comments on that? Or
no.
You just ended it off. Oh, okay.
No, you can comment.
I agree. I agree. I don't want to hear nothing about injuries. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear nothing about it. I could care less. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Kawhi Leonard is out, and somehow, some way, the Clippers found a way to win their game 6 or whatever it was to advance to the Western Conference Finals.
I mean,
so how did they do it? I know Terrence Mann stepped up, but that's what happens when you have enough money to add to your team. You can add players that'll step up.
Yeah, and
ain't no excuse for the Nets to me. They're supposed to win them up. They're at least supposed to be in the finals. At least, even if they didn't win it, okay, I can get it. First year, at least got to be in the finals. Come on, man. I know Josh got something to say. He don't want to say it now.
Because to me, I think that's not the right comparison, right? You mentioned Kawhi Leonard being out for the Clippers, like Kawhi Leonard being injured for the Clippers. Without Kawhi Leonard, I still think the Clippers have a better team than Utah. Without James Harden being 100% and Kyrie Irving, Milwaukee's a better team than Brooklyn. They are a better team, and that's why they won the series. Kevin Durant played all 53 minutes of that game, went for 48, 49, whatever the case was, and they barely lost. So if they have a 100% James Harden or Kyrie Irving, they win. Simple as that. Milwaukee's a better team without those three guys there. That's simple.
What did Milwaukee's guys do though?
What do you mean? What did they do?
What did they do? Because we're talking about all these players from Brooklyn that didn't play well and this or that. But what did Milwaukee's? I mean, we act like everybody in Milwaukee had this great game.
No, it's not about. I'm talking about as a team. That's why they won. They as a team, as a collective, Milwaukee's team was better than Brooklyn without a 100% James Harden and without Kyrie Irving playing easily.
So it had nothing to do with the rest.
The
rest of the team not showing up.
What do you mean the rest of
the rest? It's not just two people on the Nets.
Well, Joe Harris definitely needed to give more. I definitely would concede to that. He definitely needed to give more.
And the 6'4" dude, the young boy, balled out too. I gotta give him his credit. But besides him, KD and Griffin, nobody showed up.
That's a lot of people, Tone. That's four. That's four people.
That's three. Harden was on the court, but he. If you're gonna be on the court, I don't want to hear about your injury when you lose.
Oh,
look at
what I'm saying.
Joel Embiid played with a torn meniscus, and his post-game interview, he mentioned injuries as a team once. James Harden mentioned his injury about 7 times.
He was hurt, Tone. Everyone knows he was hurt.
Right, this man, and he had a triple-double, just about a triple-double.
He was still hurt, though. He was still playing. He played hurt.
But how many players in the NBA are hurt right now playing?
But that's the reason why they lost, man. That's the reason why they lost. They lost because they were an inferior team to Milwaukee without those guys being 100%.
Well, we got to give credit to the Bucks because they played without DiVincenzo. They played without DiVincenzo, so those players had to really step up for the Milwaukee Bucks to really get over that top.
To me, it's no excuses, man.
I get it. They lost the game. Excuses, they should have went further. Their 3 superstar players should have been there. But again, Kyrie Irving got hurt off a freak injury. He stepped on someone's ankle.
Let me ask you this: do you think?
Did you look at it? Did you look at it?
He came down on someone's ankle. Yeah, I seen it.
If you go look at it, I don't think he really stepped on Giannis' ankle. On Giannis' foot. He came down on the side of Giannis' foot. He came down on his own ankle. He didn't come down on Giannis' foot. He came down on his own ankle.
That's his
fault. Go look at it, Josh. It's his fault.
That's an even freaker accident.
Yeah, freak accident nonetheless.
Own ankle, bro.
But that's what I'm saying. That's a freak injury, Sam.
But what I'm saying, but listen, like I was saying to you before, there are players who are just injury prone, freak accident or not. There are players that you just can't rely on. Kyrie is one of them.
Oh, you can't rely on Kyrie Irving in the playoffs? Is that what you're telling me, Sam? You can't rely on
his injury.
Bro, his injuries, his health, him being there. You cannot rely on Kyrie since he's been in college. Kyrie has been injury prone or for some reason not with the team.
Yeah, he was hurt in Boston too.
I don't think it had anything to do with injury, him not being there. I think it's more the personal reasons and the load management stuff. But even with that, I'm still taking Kyrie Irving over a many point guard.
But listen, but what I'm saying is, whether it's injury or personal reasons, for some reason, Kyrie is not available for your team for a good portion of your season.
But not during the playoffs, man.
But it hampers the chemistry of the team.
Josh, let me tell you this: before these 2 seasons, I would have took Kyrie and Durant and all that came with it. In hindsight, witnessing the things that he does and how it would have affected this particular New York Knicks team, we dodged the bullet, in my opinion. We dodged the bullet, in my opinion.
Listen,
Burning Sage and MSG, hell no, that wouldn't have won.
Josh, chemistry still means a lot.
It does mean a lot.
When you're starting point guard and a ball dominant guard is not there for a large portion of your season, I don't care if it's injuries or if it's personal reasons. When they're not there, you have to readjust to that person coming back to play. And then all of a sudden they're not there again. Now you got to readjust to having a bigger role.
Sim, but what I'm saying is Kyrie Irving's injuries, it's not a chronic problem. He got hurt off a freak injury. That's what happened in the playoffs. That's what we're talking about.
But what I'm saying to you, I understand that. But there are some players.
Because I guarantee that just even if Kyrie Irving was out of those games during the regular season, and KD was out those games during the regular season, those 3 guys healthy, they win the championship.
Right, but you know what? If they develop a stronger chemistry with him constantly being there, and then he does go out, players understand, okay, how can I step in? There's a stronger chemistry to the team. Right? Obviously, with him being there, it's going to be a different series. But this has been Kyrie since he's been in the league.
That's not true, Sam. That's
It
not
is
true.
true.
The guy put up 40
It is true,
he
bro.
put up 40 in a game 7 of a finals.
We're not
What
talking
did he do in
about
Boston?
his ability to play.
What did he do in
He
Boston?
has the ability
Bro.
to do that.
They would not have been to. No. Listen. If LeBron James did not choose to go back to Cleveland, Kyrie wouldn't have been in those finals. We understand what he can do in a single game in a vacuum. We get that. But if LeBron did not go back to Cleveland, Kyrie wouldn't have been in those finals.
It's like, this is what I'm talking about. The hypothetical stuff, this rhetoric. From
But I'm saying Boston. Boston is not hypothetical. Boston happened.
No, but I get that. But the guy's a champion. The Knicks haven't won a championship in 50 years.
But then,
50.
but then you got to add the LeBron thing. Was what Simmons saying?
Exactly.
Okay. So let's add
Right.
the Phil. Hold on. So let's add the Phil Jackson thing to Kobe. Let's add the Phil Jackson thing to Michael Jordan. There's so many things that go into winning the championship. It's not just about who your star players are. There's so many different things that go into it. It's not just bringing
But
LeBron
the thing
there.
is
There's so
this:
many
you
different
have to
things.
look at. But the thing is this:
I'm talking about injuries.
Kyrie was there in Cleveland before LeBron was there, and they were terrible. They
Lottery
could not
down.
build around him. They could not build a team around Kyrie.
That's his fault?
Yeah.
Part of it is him.
Oh my God.
Part of it is him.
It's like we take these great players and we try to minimize what they did because they play on bad teams.
No. Because
Boston.
I'm
No,
not.
I
that
don't think
person at all.
anybody's
I
taking
think-
anything away from his ability.
Right. I think that Kyrie, it is hard to win with Kyrie as your focal point, and you got to have a James Harden and a Kevin Durant. Look what happened in Boston.
But here's my point, though. We
Because
as
he is
Knicks
just
fans,
inconsistent.
hold on. This is what I'm saying. We as Knicks fans, we look up to Patrick Ewing. He couldn't win it either. He
played hurt though.
But listen. When you talk about he didn't win because there were teams that were better. Yes. We know that. We get that. But he also, like I said to you in the post, he carried the Knicks to the playoffs for 15 straight years. They went to 2 NBA finals with Patrick Ewing as the leader of the team.
But he didn't win the championship, Sam. He as the number one focal point.
We
He didn't
get
win the
that.
championship.
I get that. But if Kyrie didn't have LeBron there, and that makes a big difference,
And Kevin Love too.
he would not have won a championship.
You can say the same thing about LeBron not having Kyrie.
Come on.
Jordan had Pippen.
He did it without him already. He did it without Kyrie already.
But it's not a one-man show, Sam. It's a team thing.
Yeah, you don't understand. I understand that. Listen, I am the epitome of playing team basketball and what team is. What I'm saying is Kyrie himself, he's a great player, but he is not a chemistry builder.
Yo, I gotta say something.
And what he does, his antics will drag your team down. Kyrie left Cleveland because he did not want to be under LeBron James' shadow. He wanted to prove that he can be the focal point of a team and win a championship or go to the finals without LeBron James. That's the reason why he wanted to leave.
But here's my thing, though. This is what I'm talking about. Hold on. Let me say this. As Knicks fans, we have a tendency to downgrade great players, right? Because they can't be the number one focal point on a championship team. But guess what? The Knicks haven't had many great players in their history. We haven't had that. Hold on, let me finish real quick. What I'm saying is we have a tendency to downgrade greatness. The guy is a great player. And I don't care what team you are, you would rather have that guy on your team because that guy gets you closer to a championship. He's not going to win you one, but you want that guy on your team. When the game is on the line, you want that guy on your team. So I just feel like for Knicks fans specifically, we're downgrading a great player because he can't be the number one focal point on the team, saying that this player isn't this player isn't that. That's the reason why we don't want that player when we have never really had that player.
I am downgrading him because he is not a chemistry builder. He will tear your team apart.
That's
like a Stephon Marbury type of guy.
Josh just said
That's who Kyrie is to me.
That's
what I think. That's how I feel about Kyrie.
Man, that's tough, Sim, because I love Marbury, and I have a different take on Marbury.
I mean, I love Marbury too, but I do feel like he's, I do feel like he was a bad chemistry guy.
Yeah,
I feel like he was. I like Marbury. I used to rock Starberries all day long.
Yeah,
But I still feel like he's a bad chemistry guy.
But and I was only saying, I only brought it up to say, because I wasn't trying to downgrade his talent. You can't take that away from him at all. You can't.
You can't downgrade the fact that he's a great player. He's a champion.
Nobody's saying.
But listen to what my argument was. If the same type of controversies that were going on over there in Brooklyn because of Kyrie's own actions, if that was happening while Kyrie was in a Knicks uniform, it would have been blown out of like 10 times worse. That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm saying we dodged the bullet. Brooklyn doesn't get the same scrutiny as the Knicks. Had he been here and the same things were going on, the scrutiny would have been through the roof. That's what I'm saying.
So that's the reason why you don't make a trade for a player like that. That's the reason why you don't want to go get a great player, because if it doesn't work out, it's going to be blown out of proportion.
I'm speaking in hindsight only. I already said when it was time to grab them, I said I don't care whoever KD wants with him, let's get him and let's make it happen. That was my argument at the time. I'm only speaking in hindsight of what went on in Brooklyn, with him missing games, with him not telling nobody knows where he is, with COVID protocols, with everything. All that would have been crazy going on in New York rather than Brooklyn.
Yeah, but in Josh's rant, he said that that you're not going to win with Kyrie by himself. So that's what we're saying, and there you go.
Yeah, I agree with that. But he gets you closer. He gets you way close. He's a great player. He's a great player. He moves the needle.
If Kyrie was on this team this year, the Knicks don't make the playoffs.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
God.
I agree with
that. It's not about Kyrie being a player that he is. It's about everything that happened outside of the game.
Yep.
This team was not built to deal with those kind of issues.
And I don't know if he could have played for Tibbs.
Absolutely. He would have been fighting Tibbs every single day.
I think Nash was a perfect coach for him this year. I don't know if Tibbs would have allowed any of that.
Yeah, seriously. I think Kyrie's antics would have tore the team apart from within.
Yep, absolutely.
From within. Especially, I mean, the Knicks team is built on, this team was built on chemistry. And even with Kyrie here, while he's great, this team with the other surrounding pieces still would have been built on chemistry. A lot of it. And Kyrie would have been, to me, I just think it would have been negative. And part of what Tony's saying with everything going on around the team and in the media, this, that, and the third, it would have tore the team down, in my opinion.
I agree. I don't think Randall becomes the most improved player either. None of that stuff happens.
So now it's less about what happens on the basketball court and more about what happens off of it.
But you never heard that Max Kellerman says it a lot when he, and I know I'm gonna butcher it, but something about the sum the sum of the parts being less of the actual whole. I know I'm saying it wrong, but that's a prime example of sometimes less is more. Let's say that.
I just disagree with that. So in that case, don't get Lonzo Ball because his dad's going to come around and ruin it. The media is going to be there to ruin Lonzo Ball and the chemistry around the team.
That was an argument.
Doesn't make sense.
That was an argument during draft time.
That's a flawed argument because it's not true. It's not true. Greatness. If you're great on the floor. Hold on. Wait. If you win games, a lot of that stuff goes away. No one was talking negative about the Knicks.
But Josh, his father's not in the locker room. Okay, his father, that's outside noise like everybody else. His father's not in the locker room. Kyrie Irving is in the locker room.
And LeVar Ball has toned it down tremendously.
Big time. I haven't heard his voice in
after reaching a pinnacle where it was probably becoming a problem for his son. And somebody probably had to tell him, yo, calm it down a little bit.
Name one NBA player who thinks Kyrie Irving is a detriment to their locker room. Name one.
There's probably a few of them in Boston. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. All I heard from Boston players is that Kyrie Irving was a great player. He was great for the locker room. That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
No one has it. Everyone says Kyrie is this bad player, or not bad player, but bad chemistry guy. They said the same thing about Carmelo Anthony. There was not one person that can say that.
Because he was paying their cell phone bills and stuff like that. That's why he was buying them Timberlands and buying them all kind of electronic devices.
We feed into this rhetoric. We try to make up this narrative.
But listen, we're not making. Is it not? Did you not? Was it not evident to you? Did you not see things that happened this year with him?
What are you talking about as far as what?
FMLA, when he had to go to the barbecues and stuff like that, but he should have been playing.
None of this stuff is made up. We're not making up anything that Kyrie did.
Yeah, but you're using it to fuel a narrative that's not true, Sim. That's not a true narrative.
Bro, answer me this question. Name one player in the NBA where all these players come out and say something bad about him. Name one.
Thank you.
Name one.
No, I can't.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
But I'm asking you to name one player that said that Kyrie Irving was a bad chemistry guy.
You're not understanding my point. Name one player in the NBA where that happens.
No, he said name one player where a bunch of players saying that one player is a bad chemistry guy. Exactly. I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm saying name one player.
You're missing my point. You're missing my point. I'm saying to you, okay, name one player that talks about any other player and says he's bad in the locker room. Comes out in the media, he's bad in the locker room. I don't want to play with him. Name one player that does that.
No, only time you hear that
none.
Is when they're out
That's
the league
the point.
already.
But
Okay,
are you telling me that there's not players in the NBA that other players don't want to play with?
But that doesn't mean we should speculate, Sam. We shouldn't speculate on that. Oh, we got to speculate that now?
They're in the union too, so they're not going to go against the union.
Listen, check this out. Check this out. Being negative is different than being someone who doesn't build chemistry. Those are two different things. You can have someone who comes to work every day and brings the donuts and is friends with everybody, but they still sneaking behind everybody's back and saying this, that, and the third. But because everybody likes them, they keep that person's name out of the picture. Oh, I ain't gonna say nothing. Don't worry, I got you. But that person is the one who's starting everything.
Yeah, so you can say that about any player, though, Sam.
Listen, I'm not saying that's Kyrie. What I'm saying is there are things with him that I don't care. I don't care. When you have a player that is, I'm taking personal lead and then I'm taking personal leave, but then I'm going to show up on this podcast and talk about this, that, and the third. Now, I understand he has personal things that players look like, yo, like, you taking personal leave. We in this battle right here. Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? And they may not say nothing to him because it's Kyrie, but you can't tell me someone's not feeling some kind of way.
Yeah, there's guys at work that I drink with, but once we get on, once we start working, piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? I could drink a beer with him though. It's a totally different thing.
When you're a great player, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is when you're a great player and you have pedigree, you have championship pedigree like Kyrie does, you can get away with certain things. I'm not saying it's okay, Sam.
Well, I'm just saying I'm putting an asterisk next to his championship pedigree. I'm gonna say that.
I got a question for you, Josh. At what point does outside stuff affect basketball for you? So at what point does a player do you stop looking at how good he is and how skilled he is and say this guy might not fit with my team?
I look at wins and losses. I look at the output of the team. Because a lot of people were talking about how bad Mitchell Robinson's childish is. And I'm using him as an example because we can all relate as Knicks fans, right? People were saying Mitchell Robinson, childish. He has 10 different agents or whatever the case may be. Meanwhile, a guy on the floor is playing some of the best basketball of his career. He's developing well under Tom Thibodeau. Yet we want to make up this narrative that Mitchell Robinson's childish. He's this, he's that. When everything he's doing on the floor shows the opposite. He's actually improving.
I agree with you.
And showing maturity on the floor.
I agree with you in that aspect. But at what point, or is there a point for a player, any player, where you would say, this guy is super talented, but he doesn't fit my team?
I look at
Michelob
wins and losses.
Ultra is delicious.
I look at wins and losses. I look at what's happening on the floor. That's how you can determine that.
But
we
you
speculate so much about
can't determine wins and losses from one player. You can determine a player's fit for your team,
right?
But you can't determine the wins and losses of the team by that one player.
Especially if he's never been on your team. If he's never been on your team, you don't know if he's bringing you wins or losses.
No. What I'm saying, I'm answering Tone's question directly. He said, at what point do I think outside stuff affects what happens with the team, right? Is that what you were asking me? Right.
Or you're the decision to bring someone in.
Well, you look at wins and losses. The only way for you to determine that is wins and losses and how your team plays before that player and after that player. That's the only way you can determine whether a player was, you could say, detrimental. To me, that's the only way for you. Because outside of that, everything else is speculation. We don't know.
All right, let me ask you, do you think Boston played better without Kyrie or with him?
Do I think they played better without him or with him?
Yeah.
More the same. They didn't go further.
Oh gosh.
Okay. I see where we're going. I see where
we're going like this.
But I think what Tony's asking too is, at what point, if a player is not on your team, do you look at him and say, yeah, he's talented, but he don't fit what we're doing? And so by bringing him in, he may not advance us. As a matter of fact, he could bring us down.
I think that's a fair question. But at the time, and to use the Knicks as a specific example, at the time when the Knicks were going after Kyrie and KD, the Knicks didn't have any direction.
There was no down.
There was no direction.
There was no down.
That's true. You're right.
So at the time when as far as bringing in Kyrie and KD, there was no direction for this team to go in except up. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So at that point, when you talk about Kyrie, Kyrie specifically, I guess, yeah, okay, you want to build off what the Knicks were doing the year prior when they had David Fizdale there. At that point, the roster, they still didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they were going to get out of Julius Randle.
You're right.
But that's why everything I said was hindsight. Because I was with you about whatever it takes to bring KD. If it takes Kyrie too, I'm for it. You know what I mean? Like I was on that boat. But that's why I said in hindsight, looking at everything that went on in Brooklyn, I think we dodged the bullet. Because I don't think New York as a coach, it wouldn't have been a culture change. It would have been bad. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, when the Knicks were, it was rumored that when the Knicks were trying to get KD, one of the things that they said is, we don't know if we want Kyrie by himself while KD is hurt. Because we don't think he's a leader. Of course, that was Scott Perry and Steve Mills at the time. But I want to go back. I want to go back to one about Mitchell Robinson, though, because saying that he is childish and he has 10 different agents, that's not saying that he's bad chemistry wise for the team.
Yeah, but hold on. But saying that stuff questions his maturity. And what I'm saying is his maturity on the floor is something that was improving on the floor. It was going up. But yet when you were talking about everything outside of that to seem to connect the two. And you can't do that.
To me, I can't do that. I feel like it's important because when you look at his maturity this season, he was much more mature this season than in years past. And what we were talking about is that he needed to mature to develop more. He still joked, but he was a little more mature this year than he was in years past.
Right.
Well, we know why, right?
Why?
And I think that helped his development.
Right, exactly. Well, so what was the point of talking about all the 10 different agents that he was doing and all that stuff? Because we did that.
Every situation is different though, because Mitchell Robinson is a good worker, but he's a horrible off the court person. So that it happened both ways.
How do we know that? That's the fans.
We just said that. We just said he has all these different agents and stuff like that, but it doesn't matter, like you said. But listen to me.
Guys,
the whole thing is that he's a good worker. That's what I'm trying to say. You're not listening to what I'm saying. He's a good worker, but he might be a jerk off the court, but as long as he's a good worker, it doesn't matter. That's what you're saying. That's what Mitchell Robinson is. But Kyrie is the opposite.
Without saying jerk or horrible person, let's say he didn't have a business business aspect of you know what I mean? Like those are things that you don't just know because you're a basketball player, like how to pick a good agent or maybe he kept getting robbed by agents. Like we don't know what the reasoning was behind the multiple agents. That's the only thing. Like that's why I agree with Josh, because To
Right.
me, that's stuff that has nothing to do with basketball. That's stuff that, as a kid, if your parents didn't teach you about credit, you don't know about credit, so you're liable to mess up
But
your
Tone,
credit.
but the
But
reason
see,
why
but
the reason why I'm
I
so
put it in
animated,
that type of.
but the reason why
aspect.
I feel the way I do about this particular topic, right, is because it feeds into this narrative that most Knicks fans have. I'm not saying anyone here, but it feeds into this narrative that most Knicks fans have. Oh, we don't need anybody. We don't need this player because this player is not that. He didn't do that. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. When at the same time, if you look throughout the last 20 years and frankly the history of the organization, we've never had that great player. You got to go back 50. You got to go back. You got to go back 50 years to find the last MVP on this team. 50.
But how does saying that Mitchell Robinson? Because when I was talking about Mitchell Robinson, I was saying, hold on. I was saying, I think when you look at the way he came out of college, when you look at things going on with his team, I question the stability with the team around him. When I say team, I'm saying the way things were going with his agents, right? Constantly having a different agent. The way things happened going into college and the controversy with his uncle. I questioned the team around him and how he trains in the offseason when he doesn't have the Knicks staff there to mentor him and be there with him, right? So that's what I was questioning. And when I seen, the videos that he put out and like I said, then all I have is the videos that he put out. I don't know anything about what he did in videos that he did not put out or things that he did outside of those videos. Right. But obviously in those videos, you see him playing with, his friends and doing this and doing that. It didn't look like there was training going on, but there could have been. I don't know. Right. But for me, when I look at the things that happened in his past and then the constant agent changes, yes, I question the team that's around him and the stability that was around him. And for me, said, I'm concerned about his ability to develop because of the team that's around him. And like Latrell is saying, when you talk about things that happened with Team USA,
that's a good
he was supposed to be there at one time, but he was late because of this, that, and the third. Some of those things make you question the team around him.
And you still question it even though he was maturing on the floor. You still question
this was before the season ever started. The season didn't even start. We were having this conversation.
No, it was during the season. That's why
it wasn't. It was before the season started, and we were talking about the players and their development before the season even started.
It definitely was before the season. It may have been brought up once or twice during the season, but it wasn't a focal point. It was a focal point before the season started.
The reason why I said during the season is because that's when he had the whole thing with him changing his agent again. He got rid of Rich Paul. That happened during the season. And that's when the topic was brought up again. And I'm like, yo, this dude is maturing on the floor. Why are we talking about what he's doing off the court and him being immature and this young 20-year-old kid when everything that he's doing on the floor is what we've been wanting him to do under Thibodeau? So that's why I asked the question at that time. So there you go.
I mean, I think it's both fair points. I was with you, Josh, as far as like what does one have to do with the other. Sim, I think you broke it down a little bit more clearer for me right now with this in-depth take on it. But ultimately,
I do want to say to Josh, when did the season start for the Knicks? Like December 22nd?
Yep, Christmas,
right?
Christmas.
Right. So December 7th, there's an article right here when they asked Mitchell Robinson, this is way before the season started, before they started playing, when they were in training camp, about switching from Rich Paul. That was December 7th. We were having that discussion way before the season started.
I remember it being during the season. I don't know. I guess
he might have switched again though. Who'd he switch to after Rich Paul?
I forgot the guy's name, but
was it it began with a W? West
Eisenman?
Something like W. Yeah, was it that dude?
I think so.
Because he may have switched one more time. I think it was brought up once again, but either way, I think Josh had a fair point as far as him progressing on the court. That should be the most important thing affecting whether we like this guy, whether we should keep him, whether he like we've seen development, and so I agree with that. His on court development was constantly there, throughout his tenure.
I think it was at the time where he was tweeting out, "Oh, like just let me live," or he was doing the thing with the jump shot and all that during the season. When during the course of the season, and everyone was like, "Well, why are you putting these videos out and all this and that?" And I guess that's when the topic was brought up, and I was like, "Yo, the guy is still progressing." So, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, you guys are crazy, man. I just gotta say that. You guys are just freaking nuts. I'm listening. You guys are repeating and spinning around back and forth, saying the same things over and over again. You guys are nuts. Absolutely crazy.
There you go, friend. This might be one of the best ones. I've been trying to cut it short, so we still doing this stoop.
Nah, like I said, I got my kids in here, my grandkids waiting for me to come in there. You know what I'm saying? So
no doubt. Well, I definitely appreciate you guys jumping on, man.
We were supposed to be doing closing thoughts, and we just went down the rabbit hole. All right, Jesus, like I need to take a shower and everything. You guys are nuts, man.
As do I, man. I'm getting ready for this Six Flags tour for my daughter's birthday, so I definitely had to get a show in because I'm gonna be busy for at least a week. So I appreciate you guys joining in. Your Blackest Time. I'm not saying another word. If you guys want to get some final thought,
I'll give you a final thought. I'll give you a final thought. So just to make it light, whatever. Cat Williams. I'm gonna quote Cat Williams from the Pimp Chronicles, right? Like if you've been smoking crack for 4 years, right? People have been saying you've been smoking crack for 4 years. Man, you are a crackhead. You know what I'm saying? That's all I gotta say. Well, all the stuff that you guys are saying, like Mitchell Robinson this, Mitchell Robinson that, with the agents, Kyrie Irving with all the nonsense and whatever, you disregarding Boston. Man, if they've been saying the same things about this person for 4, 7, 8 years, whatever, that's what they are. If you've been smoking crack for 4 years, if they've been saying it for 4 years, man, you are smoking crack. And there you go.
Once a crackhead, always a crackhead.
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah, always a pleasure, Tone. Sim, Eru, always a pleasure to get up here and talk Knicks with you guys. Just know that I'm committed to this team. I love this team. I think that we're moving in the right direction, but I do want to see some moves that made. And I don't want to get straight everybody. I don't want to just spend money on willy-nilly. But at some point, you got to be able to swing the bat. And for this team, I would like to have a great player on this roster. I don't think Julius Randle's great yet.
You want a top 10 guy on the team,
without question, because I think he gets us closer to that championship that we've been missing out on for 50 years. Keep that in perspective. 50 years. That's it.
I think we got to take advantage of this point in time now too. We definitely got to go for it. What else are we waiting for?
Hey, I think it's a crucial offseason for Leon Rose. He's got to be. He's got to find a way to make the team better, but also be delicate about it because, what you want may not be available this offseason. So I think he's got to be smart, be delicate, and keep the team flexible enough so that when it's time to really go for it, if it's not this summer, when it's time to really go for it, you got the pieces to be able to do it. So I think you got to be smart.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But again, thank you guys for joining me.
Appreciate you, man.
Your Blackest Time. Thank you guys for joining in the chat. Appreciate all you guys, man. One love.
Peace.
Your Blackest Time.
For sure.
Sim, you crazy, dog. You crazy, man.